What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Okay, so the card that I want to talk about today is Gravekeepers Spy. It's a very old card, you guys know, came out all the way back when in Pharaonic Guardian. But the interesting thing about Gravekeepers Spy is, you know, unlike many cards, this is a card that was highly playable day one, ever since its creation. You know, originally this card worked pretty much best in Monarchs because, you know, it facilitated constant Monarch drops without really any disadvantages. In fact, it worked better in Monarchs than it did in GKs because, you know, GKs just didn't have the support that they needed to be a really competitive deck. They had to wait for other cards like Recruiter and Descendant and so on and so forth. It's always been a little baffling to me that in an XC world, Gravekeepers Spy doesn't see more play. Like, you know, I think that a card that you can almost compare it to is Tour Guide from the Underworld. And I don't mean it's not nearly as broken as Tour Guide, obviously, because it doesn't, you know, instantly summon a monster to the field as soon as you place it on the board. But the thing is, it basically is the toolbox for the rank 4 XC, much like Tour Guide was the instant toolbox for the rank 3 XC. And one of the attributes, one of the characteristics that Gravekeepers Spy has that I absolutely love, and it's very, very difficult to find this in a monster, Gravekeepers Spy transitions defense to offense almost instantly. And it's practically impossible to find that in a card or in a monster per se. And I'll give you an example so that you can better understand what I'm saying. Let's say your opponent summons a Sabersaurus and they attack into Gravekeepers Spy. Well, obviously she survives because she's got that 2000 defense ass. And you know what I mean? But you get another monster, whether it be another Gravekeepers Spy or something, so on and so forth. The way that you transition that defense, because you didn't need anything else to protect you from that attack, into offense is simple. Just XC into a rank 4 monster. Maybe you XC into Blackhorn, blow your opponent's Sabersaurus up. Not only have they lost their Sabersaurus, so you know that you're taking away their field presence, but you've got a monster that's 2100 and you know it puts pressure on your opponent to answer that. And this is one of the things that Gravekeepers Spy, it seems like it's really underrated because I can't really think of any other card that has flat out amazing defense. I mean, you can put it on the board, and outside of Doka or Insectors, I pretty much feel like you're not going to be able to wipe my board, you know, using a monster or something like that, unless you use like BLS or something that is effect removal. You know, I don't feel like you're going to be able to just run this guy over, run over Spy. And then, you know, in a best case situation, you know, I get another monster and I can XC. Now, you also have to remember, you know, as we start getting these Japanese OCG XCs, you know, Daigusto and Laval Chain, I mean, this card is just going to be like more plus. I mean, this card's going to get ridiculous. Now, some of the decks that I think that can really take advantage of this, macro, obviously. And the reason I like it in macro, you guys will be like, you like everything in macro. The reason I like it in macro is because when you don't have a way to get to Survivor, macro can get a little dicey. It can feel like the deck's kind of falling apart. But if you have this card to stop those opening, you know, Stratos and Sabersaurus attacks and stuff like that, that can at least sit on the field and stall for a couple of turns, then you're buying yourself more time. It's like, even though this card transitions defense to offense, you don't have to instantly exceed. Like, you can just sit on this and know, I mean, I probably have a couple of turns. I actually really like this card in Chaos Dragons, and the reason I like it is because when you set in Chaos Dragons, 90% of the time I'm going to put you on Raikou. I mean, what else can you possibly set in the deck, like Sangan maybe? You know, if you set this, chances are, you know, I'm going to summon something that I want to die, like a Sangan or something, run into it, and then it's like, oh wait, you know, it wasn't Sangan, it was a GK. It was a GK Spy. And the reason that it works well in Chaos Dragons is not only does it actually give the deck solid defense, which it basically has never had, but you have the surprise element, and it works perfectly with the whole Chaos engine. I mean, you just randomly throw 3 spies in the deck and you're pretty much covered. Like, you don't really lose anything, but it also gives you the ability to exceed into rank 4s because Chaos Dragons has a really difficult time doing that. I mean, they don't run outside of Equip Swiver, and you've got like Lila, and that's pretty much it. The last deck I really like it in is Plants, and pretty much for the same reason. You know, Plants don't run a lot of good defense monsters. I mean, if you're setting like the Bree Dragon, you're in a very bad position. So if your opponent gets like a Thunder King or, you know, a monster of that sort of Banisher, they can really, really be hurting you. You know, I look at Gravekeepers Spy is a tempo controlling card. You know, when your opponent is pressing with, you know, back row plus a Thunder King or back row plus Sabersaurus, this is the perfect card to answer, where you just set it and it's like, okay, well, I have decent options now. I can sit on this spy. I've now got 2 monsters instead of 1. You can't get past either one of them without committing to the board, and, you know, I like the position I'm in. You also have to remember that this card also opens up Arcanite and Tempest Magician plays in those respective decks. You know what I mean? I don't really think you can do much with like a Fat Veiler, but overall, I look at Spy and it's like, it's a really good card, and actually, I like it in this format too. Like, the #1 deck that I would test this card out in is Chaos Dragons, because I really, really like it. It also gives the deck access to Abyss Dweller if you're playing against Mermills, which also helps. So let me know what you guys think, and thank you for watching as always.